Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki delivered his exposé in the Sejm today. In an 80-minute speech, the Prime Minister set out the government's priorities for the new term. He mentioned, among others, defending the family and children against the effects of the cultural war, building a prosperous state, as well as creating a demographic strategy for Poland. Poles gave the Law and Justice Party the mandate to build the Polish state of prosperity, a modern and safe statehood, the state of which each of us would proudly say, Poland is my home. Poles gave us that mandate in the recent elections, which had the highest turnout in the last 30 years, and they gave the Law and Justice Party a record high number of votes. The goal of goals is to build Poland as the best country in which to live in Europe. Poland with peaceful everyday life. Poland safe in her borders. This is the dream of millions of Poles. Our programme is based on the culture which builds our national identity. It is built on the family and marriage, as described in our constitution. Those are the constitutional values we believe in. The family is, and must remain, the foundation of our society. I know that the family is treated by some as a story of the past. The more they talk about new family models, the more it becomes obvious that they are talking about experimental issues with minorities in society and new experimental solutions. We do not agree that exceptions should pretend to define the new norm. We believe that the future of our children should be built on the solid foundation of the family. Prime Minister Morawiecki touched upon a large number of topics during today's exposé, but focused heavily on the importance of protecting the institution of the family. Polish President Andrzej Duda expressed his support for the path chosen by the Prime Minister and underlined that the government must continue its efforts to improve the situation of Polish families. The Prime Minister's exposé focused on this issue of normality and expressed the ambition of the government to build a prosperous Polish state. The Prime Minister declared that the family is a Polish core value and that his government will be centred on supporting families. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki voiced opposition toward a Poland of extremes and promised to build a strong state with a prosperous society with a new and growing middle class. It is impossible to mention all the topics covered by the exposé, but much was said about the climate, renewable energy, ecology and support for business owners. Polish President Andrzej Duda expressed his satisfaction with the Prime Minister's focusing on pro-family policies in his speech. The issue of the family was strongly emphasised by the Prime Minister. Much was said about the importance of protecting children from harmful influences. The Prime Minister's statements on these matters were greeted not only with loud applause from the Chamber, but also with appreciation from my side, as I believe that this is how Polish politics should be conducted. The vote of confidence in the new government will take place tonight. All opposition parties have declared that they will vote against Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki's government, but the ruling party has a majority in parliament, meaning the new government is out of danger. The European Court of Justice in Luxembourg decided today that it is the Polish Supreme Court which should investigate the independence of the disciplinary board of the Supreme Court. In particular, according to the European Court, the Supreme Court should decide whether the board should have the authority to decide on the retirement of judges. If the Supreme Court rules that the board is biased, it will be able to stop sending matters concerning the retirement of judges to it.
Today's ruling of the European Court of Justice revolved around one of the most crucial components of the Law and Justice Party's judicial reform. It's the Polish Supreme Court which should investigate the independence of the disciplinary board of the Supreme Court and whether it can deliver verdicts on the arguments regarding the retirement of judges. If the Supreme Court rules that the board is biased, it will be allowed to stop sending matters of retirement of justices to it. According to the opposition, this type of ruling was to be expected. It's a good thing that the Court of Justice gave a ruling which allows the Supreme Court to assess the matters of the National Council of the Judiciary and the Disciplinary Board. We never had any doubts that the way the judges of the National Council of the Judiciary were chosen was unconstitutional. It violated the most basic rule of the independence of the judiciary from politicians. I have only one question then. How quickly and how efficiently is the Polish government going to implement this ruling?
sposób ma zamiar polski rząd.
However, the Law and Justice Party Senator Wojciech Skurkiewicz believes the opposition expected a much harsher critique of the ruling party's judicial reform.
Okazuje się, że
It turns out it's not that bad at all. I'd argue it's a sold verdict. It says that Poland has the right to reform its judiciary.
jest to jednoznaczne stwierdzenie.
The ruling of the European Court of Justice came in response to the preliminary question asked by the Polish Supreme Court regarding the status of the National Council of the Judiciary and the Disciplinary Board.
Billionaire George Soros opened the new main campus of his Central European University, or CEU, in Vienna on Friday after the university had been expelled from Hungary by Viktor Orban. The conservative Hungarian Prime Minister had earlier made it clear that the CEU did not comply with Hungarian law and education and, as a result, would be forced to leave the country.
CEU's decision last year to move the bulk of its courses out of Hungary came following a long struggle between Hungarian-born George Soros, who promotes pro-migration policies through his Open Society Foundation as well as numerous other NGOs, and Viktor Orban's anti-mass immigration government.
CEU has steadfastly defended the principle of academic freedom against the concentrated attack by the corrupt government of Viktor Orban, who was hell-bent to destroy it. CEU's epic struggle against the repressive regime generated worldwide support. That struggle is still ongoing.
Founded by Soros in 1991, CEU has been a gateway to the West for thousands of students from Eastern Europe, offering US-accredited graduate degree programs promoting progressive values. However, Hungary's ruling party Fidesz changed the law in 2017 to ban foreign-registered universities that do not also offer courses in their home country. The decision led to some courses provided by the university being banished from the state's capital. Then, the university has moved its US-accredited courses to Vienna. It has maintained some presence in Budapest, which Soros said was in recognition of the support shown by other academics.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. In all regions, sky will be cloudless. Temperature will fall across Poland. A maximum 7 degrees we will see in Gdańsk. In central Poland, temperature will range about 5 degrees. Light overcast will appear around Olsztyn and Katowice. The pressure began to rise. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. On the northwest, we may expect plenty of sunlight. In central Poland and on the east, sky will be overcast. The temperature will range from 8 degrees in Białystok to 12 in Rzeszów. The wind will be moderate. Let's check the weather for the next days. On Thursday, little rainfall will appear on the southeast. Temperature will hover around 10 degrees. On Friday, cooling down on the northeast. Temperature will fall to 2 degrees. On Saturday, temperature will rise to even 16 degrees on the south. In the western part of Poland, light rainfalls will appear. Thank you for watching and see you soon.
Poland Daily Business Edition, and tonight we will focus on a very small, very particular market. ABM Technik is a company that works in that market, and Marek Bernacek is the company's founder and CEO. Sir, welcome to the show. You are selling and distributing the measurement equipment here in Poland and throughout Europe.
Measurement equipment is a part of our activity because the main material or machine which we are selling is dispensing equipment. This is the word which is not even existing in Polish language.
That's true.
Because dispensing is not even defined. We use Polish term dosing, but this is not very precision.
This is not precise.
It's not precise word.
Mm-hmm. But thanks to this, you have quite an insight into the Polish advanced manufacturing.
Yes, indeed. We do a lot of processes assembly processes which are involved in automotive sub-assembly, electromechanics, electronics, medical devices, and so on.
And your customers are companies that are producing or manufacturing things in Poland or selling them all over the world?
Mostly, our customers are located in Poland, although in some cases we delivered such neat and nice solution that it was even bought outside of Poland as well.
Mm-hmm. You are also working with your own solution? You are creating your own solution for particular issues within your branch?
We are having certain specific potential because we are distributing a number of equipment which is coming from different companies, and we are able to combine it into unique way to build a process which is not able to be purchased from specific company which is producing it.
Right, because
we built.
So basically the product you are selling and offering is a knowledge.
Yes, we call it. We prefer to name it process, although it is a very unknown word as well.
Tell us a little bit about the Polish market. How do you see the development of this advanced manufacturing, say, last 10 years?
It's a good question, because last 10 years I observe huge development of, let's say, mental technical growth. Because something like 10 years ago, it was almost impossible to find people who would be interested in more than 10% of our capability. Today, we are facing real technical problems, real technical challenges which are created by, sorry for that, rheology of materials. And this is becoming quite interesting. Then we are landing in area of the top solutions in industry, and I am very proud of it, because we can use now the potential of our application laboratory, which I built last 20 years.
Mm-hmm. So we can say that the Polish companies that are working with you, your customers, are basically at the cutting edge of the industry, and that's not only in Poland but in Europe and in the world.
Yes, of course, 90% of our business comes from Poland, obviously. We are here, we are speaking local language.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that the company you work with, as if I understood correctly, started as entities that didn't really need the capabilities you were delivering, and right now they are using like much more of it, which means that their growth can be measured by this.
Exactly. I can tell you a small anecdote. When we started,
we love anecdotes
when we started our company, very often our customers were asking in the beginning of our discussion, are Germans using this? And when we said no, not yet, very often, Polish customers said, so we are not interested in it, because when they will start using it, we will also use it. Now, after same answer that Germans are not using it yet, Polish customers are immediately interested, immediately asking for that and say, yes, we want it because nobody is using it, so it gives us competitive advantage.
Well, that's fantastic news and kind of refreshing information that there is a boldness in the Polish manufacturers, the Polish producers who say, yes, we will do it.
I often say that I'm proud of such customers who are willing to chase the top technologies to win the international competition. And we are helping it to achieve it.
Well, that's good information, and
I love it.
definitely fantastic. It kind of mirrors this economic data from Poland. We know the general data that we are one of the fastest growing country in Europe. We are, in the same token, we are one of the fastest growing country in the world. We have this about the Polish economy. You can read in Kuala Lumpur, and you will read that it grows fantastically. But if we go a little bit deeper, like with your case, we can have confirmation of that statements.
I'd love to have it even more, because from my perspective, Polish industry is developing in less technical areas. We are probably the biggest supplier of IKEA industry and the IKEA furnitures, and we are also selling to some companies making furniture. But the area of automation in Poland is still underdeveloped. We can't compare to companies in, let's say, Asia, where 100 people is operating with 1,000 robots, for instance. It's not happening in Poland.
Yes,
in Poland, 100 people have one robot.
Right. This is the room to grow, and obviously, when we will leave this low-income philosophy that we're competing with the low cost of manual labor, this will add the incentive to replace that labor with automation of various kinds, and the automation now is something totally different than automation, say, 10 years ago.
Certainly, the relation between work cost and investment cost is very important. But from my perspective, the most important is to see invisible. My famous saying is that important things are invisible and the most important things are additionally hidden. And one of these invisible things is a process, which is not visible from outside. You can see equipment, but you don't see what this equipment is really doing.
Yes.
And the most important thing is to know why this equipment is doing these things. And I think this is area to improve in Poland, to see these invisible things, to understand processes, and to create them in such way that we could achieve the real growth.
Marek Bernaciak, AMB Technik, was our guest, sir. Thank you very much. That was like point of this conversation, because we want to see the processes and understand them as much as we could.
Thank you very much.
That was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. On the northwest, we may expect plenty of sunlight. In central Poland and on the east, sky will be overcast. The temperature will range from 8 degrees in Białystok to 12 in Rzeszów. The wind will be moderate. Now let's check the weather for Europe. The highest temperature will be in Athens, 23 degrees, warmer in Central Europe, and there the temperature will range from 8 to 13 degrees. Snowfall is expected in Scandinavia, with temperatures ranging between 3 and 9 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
He is one of the most active and brave witnesses of the past. As a Holocaust survivor, he openly says in international media that there were no Polish death camps. Ladies and gentlemen, our today's guest, Edward Masberg. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
But before we start the interview, let's see some shots of his actions. Mr. Mossberg, you came here to Warsaw for the event of the righteous among the nation, people who saved Jews during the war. And why did you come here? Why do you come back again to Poland to remind about those stories?
This is my duty and obligation. You see, there are a lot of people, they survive, and a lot of them, they cannot talk about it. Like my wife, she survived several death marches. She went in so many camps, and she cannot talk about it. So I have to do it. And there are other people, they can't talk about it. So this is like my obligation, to go and talk, to teach the people what happened during the Holocaust.
And every year, you also take part in the March of Living. You do it every year. Why are you doing it as well? And why is it important?
But the same thing, that I can talk to the children to grow up. What happened? I go to any groups. It could be a small group of 2, 3, or 5 people. And I talk to a large group like March of the Living. There are 15,000, and I speak to them. Okay, I go in, like in the United States, there are recruits from police, different departments. And I go there and talk to them and teach them what happened during the Holocaust. Because some of them, they didn't know, they didn't hear even about it.
You are a Polish Jew, but you never gave up on your Polishness in a way that you're coming back to Poland. But there are so many Jews who never wanted to come back to Poland here, and they associate Poland only with death camps or with a dead soil. What message would you have also to such kind of people, which see Poland only as a death place?
Well, I tell you, like you said, that other Jews don't want to come down. This is their problems. Because I come down here to Poland, and I consider this to be, as a Jew, a free place. In the beginning of the years, I brought with me a religious man, a rabbi, with a beard, with a black hat. And I asked him, if you walk around the city, Krakow, how you feel? Very safe. No one bothers him, no one say one word to him. I talked to the children from the March of Living, to the Israeli soldiers. I asked them, how you feel? Very safe. Okay, and what will happen? Would you go to France or to Germany? Each one say no, because they could be beaten or even killed there. So Poland is very, very safe as far as I'm concerned. I never experienced an anti-Semitism in Poland.
That's an extremely important statement which you're just giving right now, because Poland faces more and more of accusation of anti-Semitism on different levels, which some of them might be just, but a lot of them are unjust and are elements of prejudice.
The anti-Semitism in Poland is created by the Jews themselves.
Why?
Why? Because they have a man who is his name is Israel Katz. I don't know if you ever heard the name.
Yes.
He made a statement that a Christian mother, when she feeds the baby with her milk from the breast, she's feeding him with the anti-Semitism. I consider this as a very stupid thing. I even say that I'm going to nominate him for a Nobel Prize for stupidity. I refuse to go to Israel. I said I would, till that man or the government don't remove him, I will never go to Israel, because that thing is an insult not just to Poland, that is an insult to all Christianity around the whole world, because this was not just to Poland. So I consider this insult to all Christianity around the whole world.
Thank you for saying those words.
Well, this is the truth. I'm not just telling because for you. I tell this, everything is for me, because I feel that way.
And those were words of Edward Mossberg, the survivor of Holocaust. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
To jest kalendarz historyczny Telewizji Republika, który prezentować będą dla Państwa.
Good evening, my name is Ryszard Gromacki. Welcome to Poland Daily History. My guest is Piotr Dmitrowicz. Today we will speak about the event that took place on April 10th, 1921. On that day, Marshal Józef Piłsudski came to Płock to reward the city for the heroic attitude of the city's inhabitants during the Soviet invasion in August 1920.
1920 roku.
Tak, to jest taki trochę zapomniany epizod wojny polsko-bolszewickiej.
This is a slightly forgotten episode of the Polish-Bolshevik War because the most tragic fights ended on August 18th. What happened after the Battle of Warsaw is a really beautiful chapter, not only in the history of Płock, but also in the history of Poland. It was an extremely heroic episode, which, like few, is suitable to make a film about it.
Na to, żeby film o tym nakręcić.
Powiem tak, Piotrze, nieprzypadkowo dwa miasta.
It is no accident that the two cities which were decorated in the interwar period were Lviv and Płock. Lviv was awarded for the epic Lviv Eaglets, Polish teenagers who defended the city, and here we have another example of civic heroism in the face of danger and death.
Obrońców Płocka.
Nie brakowało harcerzy.
Nie brakowało harcerzy. Najmłodszy z poległych, Antolek Gradowski, miał lat 14, ale wśród odznaczonych znaleźli się na przykład Tadeusz.
We can also talk about Płock Eaglets, because among the defenders of Płock there were many scouts. The youngest of the fallen, Antoly Gradowski, was just 14 years old. There was also Tadeusz Jeziorowski, a 12-year-old who performed amazing deeds on August 18th. His task was to supply ammunition to the barricades, because the situation on that day was so dramatic that Polish troops were no longer in the city. The forces of the Red, brutal Cossacks were advancing. The civilian population put up barricades, and this boy and his friends carried ammunition wherever it was needed. It was not an easy task, because various weapons were used, Austrian, Russian and German. Because of this, he had to know what kinds of bullets they needed. Two quotes that I have prepared will allow us to understand the atmosphere at the time. There is a terrible panic in the city. Everyone is heading towards the bridge. I run into the square next to the park and church while bullets are flying past me. Further along, a small space separates us from the bridge. Panic ensues. Cossacks are already in the square and are shooting at us. The effective fire of Cossack machine guns is devastating to horses and people. Panic leads to the fact that individual groups of soldiers shoot their own by mistake. This was the first quote. Let me quote another fragment. This time it is an excerpt from April 10th, 1921, a great day for Płock. Marshal Piłsudski, awarding the city of Płock with the Cross of Valor, says, I nominate the city of Płock with the Cross of Valor for preserving bravery and willpower in the difficult and extraordinary circumstances in which the city found itself. These words were spoken by Marshal Józef Piłsudski. Many civilians were also posthumously awarded, as several hundred people died defending their city. As for the losses, it is said that about 300 defenders of Płock were killed, among them 100 civilians.
Zginęło około 300 obrońców Płocka, wśród tych było około 100 cywilów, czyli to byli ci ludzie, którzy walczyli w tym.
The Bolsheviks wreaked havoc. At least several hundred women were raped.
Cały szpital wymordowany, a właśnie pielęgniarki w tym szpitalu zgwałcone.
The entire hospital was murdered, and the nurses who failed to escape were raped. Anyway, the defense of Płock and this determination of the city's civilian population shows what brutal of a force we had to deal with in 1920, how terrible the Bolsheviks behaved towards, among others, the civilian population.
Piotrze, uzupełniając opis, który przywołałeś,
I would just like to add, completing the description you cited, quoting the speech of Marshal Piłsudski. On that day, when the Marshal arrived by train from Warsaw to Kutno and from there by car to Płock, an escort of scouts and soldiers was waiting for him on the bridge. They came to the city's main square and a mass was held in the Płock Cathedral. The Marshal was accompanied by many officers who played vital roles during the events of 1920, the battle with the Bolsheviks. For instance, these were General Władysław Sikorski and General Tadeusz Rozwadowski.
Co ciekawe, niekoniecznie w późniejszym...
Interestingly, in later years, they were no longer close to Marshal Piłsudski.
w roku 1920, jak widać kilka miesięcy również później.
It is true, but as far as this episode of history is concerned, they came to honor the city of Płock. This part of our history was hidden in the years of the Polish People's Republic for obvious reasons. Efforts were made to erase the memory of the inhabitants of Płock. Fortunately, there are photos that we can show you in this program, but also material souvenirs, for example, the ceremonial protocol of the City Council prepared on April 10th, 1921. A beautiful episode in our history.
Piękny epizod naszej historii.
Piękna historia i...
Beautiful history, both for Płock and its defenders. It shows how important memory and appreciation of citizens were in the Second Polish Republic. This would be a building element of the Second Polish Republic.
Budowały drugą Rzeczpospolitą.
Undoubtedly, my guest was Piotr Dmitrowicz. Thank you and see you soon.
The Holy Cross Mountains of Świętokrzyska province. Something to conjure with. These prehistoric outcroppings date back 500 million years and were once of Himalayan height. Today, the highest point within these hills, and indeed the highest point between southern Poland, the Tatra Mountains, etc., and the Urals, is still the Holy Cross Mountains, and specifically Bald Mountain or Święte Góry. Święte Góra is and was a sacred spot. Today the hill's summit is crowned with a basilica, which has stood for many centuries. But this is something to think about. A pagan wall, the remnants of a pagan wall, exists, crumbled and forgotten, like something out of a Shelley poem, symbolizing the peoples who once lived and worshipped here in pre-Christian times. There is something about this area. The oldest oak is here, the Bartek oak, 800 years old. This majestic tree is a stone's throw, or a few kilometers drive, if you will, from Heceni Castle. This strong point commanded traffic in the Kielce area for centuries. The bear went over the mountain to see what he could see, and we're going to do the same thing. Join us in the Holy Cross Mountains. I'm Will Richardson, and this is Poland Daily Travel, the show we do for you.
Okay, so here you can see behind me the town of Hitchinny. There's the church, which is one of the churches called the Treasures on the trail, which is called the Treasures of the Holy Cross Mountains. There's a whole list of wooden and other churches on this trail. There's about 30 different stops, and that's well worth doing. I just advise you to look it up, and that's a lot of fun. We're not going to be doing all that. That would take a week, and but well worth doing. The other thing, you can see behind us the town in the valley there, and look across behind me to the ridge. And really the Świętokrzyski, or the Holy Cross Hills, are a series of ridges as much as anything else, with these valleys, with streams usually running in between those ridges. So that's it from Hitchinny. I suggest you come here when you're in Kielce. You shouldn't miss this view. So that's it from Hitchinny, and on to the next place. This is Poland Daily Travel. We thank you for watching. Please go to Facebook, Poland Daily Travel, and like us. And if you really like us, share us. It doesn't take you much time, but it helps us a lot in promoting Poland. That's what we're here to do after all. We've done about 50 hours of programming since we started Poland Daily Travel in December. And that's a lot of hours about Poland in English. Okay, so check us out on Facebook, check us out on YouTube, and that's it from Hitchinny for right now. On to the next place. See you soon. Here we are in the middle of the Świętokrzyska Mountains, the Holy Cross Mountains, driving on our way to Wysokie Góry, which stands for bald, or has the meaning in English of bald mountain. And you'll see that the landscape will change as we're driving and as we approach the higher mountains. They're not that high. It's about 800 meters is the highest of the Holy Cross Mountains. But in this area, it looks substantial.
GPS signal lost.
The thing to remember is that these mountains are extremely old, and they go back for hundreds of millions of years. In this area, in these very valleys that we see, like the one that we're passing through now, would have lived Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal men. And many millions of years before them, several anyway, million years before them, were dinosaurs. And we know that because the dinosaur bones have been found, and fossils have been found in this area on many, many occasions. Likewise, the bones of Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal men. So if you can cast your mind back to when these valleys were empty of anything but animals and human beings who thrived on those animals, you will see, you might begin to, in your imagination's eye, to feel what it was like to live in those times, or what it might be like now when the lights are off on a winter's night and you find yourself alone in the forest, and you gaze up at the stars, and you may begin to understand why men have human beings have, for many thousands of years, found this to be a sacred place, found it to be a place where life was good, life could carry on, life could endure as it has for all these years. And so we continue on our way through the valleys, on our way to Wissagora. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I think you're going to love it. I think the view from there is going to be amazing. And we're going to be there at exactly the right hour, I think, to capture it on this beautiful October Friday in the middle of the month. So stay tuned. More to come.